how a token fits into like a live streaming platform. I actually think the innovation happens on the content side. Like I actually think we built a ton of features that I was like, this is gonna be sick. Versus token, 30-minute token. This is gonna be like great features for streamers to use. Everyone, they said the same thing. They were like, oh, I'm down. This is sick. How do I use this? And so we're like, all right, fuck. We have to show them.
Oh yeah, we're back. Episode 48 of Internet Explorers, here every week at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, except for last week, but we were still here last week. We just weren't here last week with the updates of what the heck is going on in the consumer crypto space. Joined here with Josh. What's up, Josh?
I'm good, man. Did we miss it last week? I don't know. I couldn't even square the time zones. I didn't even know when it was happening or when we were supposed to be on.
You were curled up recovering from a long day in Singapore when our lovely team, Nicholas and Cheryl, were out here leading the charge. So thank you all for that. Here was a great show. Obviously, we got a bunch to get into today. Josh and I were in Singapore last week, which we're seeing all sorts of stuff on the timeline. I'm not sure if any of it's accurately reflecting, I think, our experience there. So excited to talk about that. The Mr. Beast memo, talking about the C Prime post about where are the opportunities in crypto. Agentic Protocols. All right, we're getting into some fun stuff. We get a little MKBHD QRT on here as well. So that should be fun. It seems to be like a lot of nuance in the dynamics that exist when you're trying to bring a consumer product to market in a world of social media, in the world of tribal owned tokens. So I think this should be an interesting conversation today, because of course we have Brian from Unlonely joining us here today, where we're generally asking the question, what the fuck are you doing, Brian? That's, I think, my general question to you here.
I have no clue, bro.
But so maybe to frame this a little bit more, I think for those under a rock, Brian has been making a stink on the internet over the last week about moving chains. He's moving chains, and it's going to solve everything, Brian. If you move chains, everything will be fucking fixed, and you don't have to worry. So
it's going to solve my relationship with my father, too. I'm confident in it. So that's going to happen.
That might be the root of where we get to in this conversation. We'll see.
Maybe, but let's stay focused, guys.
Yeah. But I think there is sort of, there's a bunch of big themes, I think, that come out of sort of this situation, I guess, that you've got yourself into that I think are relevant for a lot of founders. Core of which I think is, where the hell should I go build? And does where you build matter? And are there different cultures in these chains? And how long is that going to matter? And are we just kind of stiff around our own farts right now, and really the bigger opportunities somewhere else? So I have a lot of questions for you, and because I think there's actually a lot of meat in the core of this. But I don't know, is there anything you want to say to kick off to sort of frame this at all?
I was thinking maybe a good place to start off is just, I think maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, you announced that you're kind of shifting away from, focusing on a platform and just focusing on, content, you being creator. So maybe like the right place to start is just framing the, pre-announcement, like where was Unlonely? What was kind of the core of that content focused announcement, and then we can step that into why Solana.
I mean, it's funny, like people on Twitter still think we're a dating app, just because of like that one dating show we did, and that's the only thing people knew, the only thing people cared about. They don't, like, a lot of people are just like, oh, I didn't even know you were live streaming. I think like we had been trying to do both for a while. You're pulling up my page. Can I send you guys a link for a demo? Can I do like a little sneak peek?
Yeah, send me. DM me.
Can you send the link? But basically, I'll do that later. But basically, like we have been trying to do both. We were like, okay, we're a live stream platform. We want streamers. We want to like build features for them. There's a fuck ton of work that goes into that. But also, in order for us to grow and get put on the map, we gotta like there has to be actually good content. And like, I don't want to like diss the people who stream on Unlonely. I appreciate them for doing what they do, but like the content is just not there. And so we would have to do our own shows, and those shows would take a lot of work. And we were kind of just like spend a few months doing the show and then switch back. Basically, like I hate building a platform. And I also think that the innovation with how a token fits into like a live streaming platform, I actually think the innovation happens on the content side. Like I actually think like we built a ton of features that I was like, this is going to be sick. Versus token, 30-minute token. This is going to be like great features for streamers to use. No one, like everyone, they said the same thing. They were like, oh, I'm down. This is sick. How do I use this? And so we're like, all right, fuck. We have to show them. I think me and Grace, like we enjoy making fun content a lot more. We're better at it. And I actually think that in the long term, like this would be better for Unlonely, the platform, if we decide to like come back to being a platform after we've like run the intense, content experience. So yeah.
Okay, got it. Cool. Makes sense. So then a week later, 2 weeks later?
Well, yeah, I think that's actually an important point, because I think that insight actually can probably apply to, if we think about platforms being built today, I think where they often go wrong is they sort of optimize for one specific token mechanic, and I think fail to realize that the token mechanic, and I think in your case the content, or the token mechanic and the narrative are or you can't pull them apart, and the innovation is actually in how you go push those together. I think it's why we don't see a million nouns DAOs out there, right? It's like that mechanic works in that specific way, and it's maybe not as repeatable as others might think, which I think is clearly not in the minds of a lot of builders who are building the 47th Memecoin marketplace today, or prediction market, or whatever that is, right? The mechanic matters a lot.
Yeah,
I think that makes a ton of sense. Okay, so then maybe take me through the thought process after that. Like, what was the inciting incident here for making the move?
I think there were some tweets I tweeted after FWB Fest. I think there were mistakes made, but at the end of the day, like, we had streamers who were angry and left because of it. Mm-hmm. And the fact that streamers were just like that was a very clear sign for us that they weren't streaming because we had built a compelling product experience, and they were just like streaming because, like, you know, it's like the whole like ETH, like, let's all hold hands, let's be optimistic together. Oh, I'll use your product, you use mine, partnership, let me use your chain, use my, like, it's all like this big clusterfuck, and I actually, like, I hate it. It's not even like it's actually bad for you, because it'll convince you that you are building something that people want, but it's like false signal, and it's a distraction, and it's a lie. It's just like it's built on a lie.
And you somehow think that magically going to Solana doesn't have those dynamics? That seems insane to me.
No, so I think moving to Solana is us doubling down on content and doubling down on the token. People in Base and people in ETH. First of all, I love that we're like getting into this. I'm like, this is great. People in Base and people in ETH, there's like a general notion that like there's like they look down on speculation. They care more about interoperability. They care more about art. They care more about NFTs, things like that. I don't believe that. I don't mint NFTs. I've never have. I don't really. I still don't really get them, right? Aside from the speculative nature, but I get tokens. I get like aping 10K into DJT and just hoping it rides, and like, fuck, I should have sold. I lost a bunch of my money. Like that adrenaline rush. I get that, and I think that culturally, for me personally, as like, you know, essentially the face of the brand, I think I fit a lot better into the Solana ecosystem. You know, like I was talking to like our investors, and they were like, yeah, like people on Base, like they aren't going to spend money and they're going to cancel you, and people in Solana will do the opposite. They just won't do that. I think it's might be helpful, like what our direction is. Like that might explain the move to Solana. We're launching like our content token. It's going to be called Boo, and basically the plan is like, this is like probably the last token we're ever going to launch, and every show that we do from now on until this token reaches fucking 100 billion or whatever is going to be around this singular token. And I firmly believe that like Solana owns the meme coin culture. Like it's actually not even close. So I sent a link to the demo, but basically like the way we're doing this is like we have a show, right? It's going to be on October 30th. It's like this like Fear Factor meets horror show meets, you know, fucking crazy token shit. But basically we rented out this like, you know, abandoned church in New York. We're going to have a few contestants. It's going to be like a 24-hour live stream. We're going to launch our Boo token probably like a week before. And if you hold the Boo token, if you buy it during the stream, it'll unlock things like you'll be able to send care packages to the contestants live. And then also like if the token pumps high enough during the show, it'll unlock the next room. So like they'll be in room number 1. It'll be like a boring room and be like, oh shit, this next room, it's called the bloodbath room. I don't know what the fuck is that. You know, I want to see what that is. All right, guys, pump this token. Like, let's get this shit to like, you know, 18 million market cap. Right now we're at 15. We got to get it there, and then we'll unlock this store. So it's gonna be that but like 24 hours. Literally, it makes like this next show. I look at this next show we're planning, and I look at Love on Leverage, and Love on Leverage literally looks like a giant steaming pile of shit compared to this. You know, I still got love for it. It was so cool. But it's like no production now. It's a very like haphazard, you know, the first version. Yeah, that's like kind of why we're moving. Like I'm going down on tokens.
Yeah, I feel like it.
We should clip what you just said. Let's clip that. That was good. Yeah.
I think when you announced it, it just seemed like entirely obvious to me. And if anything, my question was almost like, why has it taken so long to do this? Yeah. Like, you know, I think you have to incubate your product within the communities and, you know, audience that are most primed to care. And I think that, you know, for speculative token centric media, I think Solana is obviously a great fit there. So I guess, yeah, my reaction was like, yeah, obviously why so long? But I guess I think like the way that you did it is interesting and important to talk about. So I wonder how, I mean, that's kind of how you behave online anyways, but were you like strategically
He was not strategic. Come on, it was purely emotional. I mean, this is my. I think I agree with you, Josh. I think Solana is the place to be. But I'm just looking at Brian, being like, why you got to be like that on the internet and do stuff because it doesn't feel strategic to me. It feels very emotional to me. So I just watch you have like an emotional week here, and even tweeting today, it make it sound like you're the excuse for having a security incident was you're going after an OP grant. It comes off as like, yeah, but you're framing it as if it's all their fault. If I come over here, it's going to be better for me, and it's not my fault; it's their fault. That's how it comes off to me on the internet, which makes me think it's not strategic. Which makes me react to Josh's question.
I would disagree and say it is strategic. I think crypto is very tribal, and like I don't know what ecosystems your Twitter feed is, but on my end, I see a lot of people in Solana being like, "Fuck yeah, this guy's sick," and I think am I potentially burning bridges and making people angry in the ETH, Farcaster base ecosystem? I think like probably, like I've had
clearly,
like that's like all that's been there. But I think like you have to be strategic and you have to be focused with who you are serving. And if you try to serve everyone in crypto, if you try to serve EVM, ETH people and Solana people, you're just going to serve no one. And so for me, like this is like it's like a no-brainer. Like you should see Alon's tweets, like the pumped up fun guy, and how much he just bear tweets ETH and just like shits on ETH, right? Like, hey, maybe he's like that's like dumb and like he's burning bridges, but also pumped up fun's killing it, and they have no reason to ever leave Solana ever,
it just feels wildly different in how he was doing it than how you did it, I think. And so, I mean, I think I agree with you. Maybe to zoom out because like whatever. I think actually, how I view how you react to it doesn't fucking matter. In fact, I think that what matters most is that there's a deep alignment between the founder and what you're trying to go build, and how you go do it needs to be really a reflection of you. So I think my reaction is like, I don't ever want to show up on the internet in the way that you show up on the internet, Brian. It's not how I want to live my life. Yeah. But you show up on that internet consistently and own it, etc. And so like that's probably the most important thing.
I want that fucking smoke. I love getting into fights. I love speaking my truth. Like if anyone comes up to me in person and is like, you tweeted this, why did you say this? I will stand on business on that tweet in person. I'll be like, that is what I thought, and that is what I believed in the moment where I tweeted it. The second you start getting in your head and are like, dude, I've had so many people over the course be like, every time I get canceled, every time something bad happens, they're like, dude, I'm just looking out for you, man. You got to be careful. I get so many of these texts. When I get these texts, if I like internalize this and I'm like, oh, I got to be more careful with what I tweet less. When I tweet less, Unlonely dies. Like it's literally just all.
I think the tweet about the importance of sort of the full contact sport of Twitter as a founder is very well taken. Like this is an attention game ultimately, and in fact, especially for what Unlonely is building, is an attention game. So I get it. I guess to me, even just zooming out of this specific thing, it feels like we're very much in a local maxima in crypto right now, right? And I would say that is almost defined by these sort of L1 driven maxi sort of conversation. So whether that's ETH maxi or that's Solana maxi or it's whoever else, whichever other L1 wants us to believe that they're going to be the next big thing and will be the maxi. I think all of it is incredibly unhelpful in the long run, but it's the game that we have to kind of play in the short term. And so my big question really is in my mind is like, how long is this going to really matter for? The fact that there's sort of these like hyper tribal communities, right? Because I think like the important context is on the back end here, we have a ton of teams building products that are abstracted from the chains, right? And I think that the application layer in many cases, I think for breakout products, it likely will either, roll their own chain or, be everywhere or, have the flexibility to sort of move and shift around if they own that attention. And, I think if Unlonely is super successful, you're going to be in that position as well. And so I'm just wondering how much of this is like if we get too locked into the politics of today, are we actually missing the bigger picture here? And I think the answer is yes, probably across crypto. And the challenge is like, if you don't focus on today, you don't have anybody who's using and caring about this thing. And so obviously you have to focus there, but can we do it in a way that isn't sort of giving up the bigger opportunity? Or I don't know the answer to it. I think I've been trying to figure that out myself for the last little while.
I feel like we might disagree what the bigger opportunity in the future looks like. Okay. And who's going to be, who are the winners going to be.
Tell me more.
I mean, I think like the multi-chain thesis is like wrong in the sense that like you need highly opinionated people who are able to ship and build things very quickly in order to succeed. And even though I thought this, I was like, oh, but for blockchains and for L1s, it doesn't matter. For L1s, it's just like, I just need to like make sure like false. And it does matter. Everyone's like got their opinions, and it's not even like how the tech looks like. It's how the founders approach things. It's how, dude, like I have fucking Raj commenting on other people's subtweets of me when people were like pushing like false information about how like I'd switch to Solana because I got a bunch of money from them. Like full stop, false, complete opposite. Right, I literally got money from Base and like have no money from Solana. But like people were like, oh, subtweeting me about that, and Raj is like in their comments being like, shut the fuck up, you idiot, this is wrong. Right, like that is an intangible thing that makes me want to build on an ecosystem like that versus like versus Jesse. Like I love him, I've met, like we're friends, he's a nice guy, but like this like nonstop positivity and optimism, I don't know if I buy into that very much, you know. So I think like
Sure.
different chains are going to be really different, and they're going to serve different needs and serve different users. I think like this whole thesis of like it's not going to matter in like 10 years because it's all going to be like, you know, one big super chain, or like everything's going to connect into different ways. You know, maybe, but like you said, like I don't really have time to worry about what things might be 5 years from now. I just got to like fucking get more users today, tomorrow. So
I tend to think we are moving into this like, you know, cross-chain, chain abstracted world, but also that the like world of sterile, opinionless platforms is behind us. So I think regardless of you aligning with Solana culture, right? I think like you having a very clear fucking brand voice and target audience and just owning that is going to create a way better outcome for you than trying to like start here and then sterilize and go like mass market platform over time. So I don't know if it's like, I think both are true.
Well, that's the challenge of this entire conversation, is it's like it's so contextual, and I think, you know, like this conversation 8 months, 10 months ago is very different, and likely different in 10 months as well to a degree. I think I think one of the things that sort of had in the back of my mind was, you know, how much of this, just back to your switch, how much of this was sort of tech, how much of it was culture, and maybe a subset of culture was sort of like where do I feel comfortable as a builder building. And I think that point is key, because that came out massively in the conversation around it, and I saw the support from the Solana ecosystem. And I think even, you know, when we see this in media generally, if there's sort of like, you know, something that is, you know, somebody's getting canceled, let's just use that word, you know, like the desire to be a part of that community anymore is like very low, because you don't feel like you have any sort of broader support. And if you're getting support from another community, you start to see people making the shift, whether that is, you know, politics or that's in crypto as well. So I think this point of like, how do I, you know, how builders feel is actually incredibly important to where they go build their products. And it's interesting to see how much focus there is on the next bit of infrastructure. And really at the core, it's like, are the founders supporting me? Is the ecosystem supporting me? Do I feel like the community there is actually somewhere I can go build and fit? And none of that has really anything to do with the TPS of this chain or functionality.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, I'll say one thing. Like, I first started really thinking about this probably a year ago when my friend, who was like a normie, like didn't really touch crypto, was just like, oh, dude, I bought this meme coin on my Phantom wallet on Solana, you know? And I was like, the fuck? How did you? Like, I was like, oh, I just like heard about it. And like, I was like, this is fun. And that person has no clue what an L2 is. Like, I tweeted about this, right? Has no clue what an L2 is. Has only his first exposure is like Phantom wallet on Solana. And so I was like, that's interesting, having been like an ETH maxi for a pretty long time. And then like a while, and like if recently I like sold all my ETH to buy Solana because I wanted to buy shitcoins, you know, like, so like I was like, why am I building on ETH? I don't, if I already like sold all of it. I sent a new Vercel build link in the chat. If you want to pull that one up instead of, this is like old. This is like we're about to get rid of all of this in preparation for our next show.
What chat? DM?
In the StreamYard chat.
Oh, StreamYard. Oh, right. Okay.
Is that cool if I shill really quick?
Of course. As long as it's new and unseen, we're happy to.
Yeah. This is not live. This will probably be live in like the week leading up to the show.
1 sec.
I mean, no, hey man, I appreciate you guys like not bullshitting me and like telling me how you guys feel. That's kind of like weird, because is there any way you can make it wider? Like, this is like still kind of whatever.
Yeah. We're just gonna.
That's what we got.
Exit out of this. I can screen share. Can I screen share? Probably might be easier, or no.
It's just we got
limitations here.
That's fine. Basically, like you're gonna be able to go back and forth and whatever. It's okay.
Well, okay, hang on.
Send us some screenshots later. We'll drop it in the chat and people can have a look.
I rushed to get this.
Just what is the? Give us the TLDR then.
Basically, like the homepage is just going to become the stream, and there's going to be like a little modal, and you're going to be able to switch between like gamer view and stream view. And if you click this gamer view, you're going to see the token, you're going to see the chart, and you're going to see all the buttons you can click to like interact with people and stuff like that. We gotta make this look nicer, but we have to be logged into Solana.
I think the core insight that you had, which is I think at the core of all of this, is that you have to, content and token integration needs to be tight, and you're probably the best people to go do it. And I think to me that is I fully agree with that. I think if there even is going to be sort of a broader market for a platform in live streaming in crypto, we need to go do like the things that feel like they don't scale first to prove that out, I think. And likely, we'll sort of be multiple mechanisms that people might need to use, et cetera. And at the same time, I think, probably one of the biggest media brands around is Mr. Beast right now. And all they do is create great content and monetize it through shitty food. And so it follows for me that tokens would be a hell of a lot more interesting and fun and effective at monetizing streams. So it makes a ton of sense for me in the direction you're going. And now I guess we just get to wait and see how good you guys are at putting big things together.
We're good at it. October 30th. It's going to be fun.
And I think as a founder, being in control of it must feel a lot better than hoping other people come in and do awesome things. You actually have a gas pedal you can push to go make cool shit.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
Cool, man. Is there anything else you want to leave us with before we get you out of here and then talk shit behind your back?
No, I think this is like some development. It's buggy as fuck. I rushed my engineer to get this done like 10 minutes ago so I could have something to demo, but it just didn't work. It's okay.
Well, thanks for trying, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I think I don't know, like I get you guys being like this guy's an idiot on Twitter. I think have some faith in me. Don't doubt me. I know what I'm doing. I think at the end of the day, like every time I get one of those like messages about like calming down on Twitter, it kind of comes from a place of like, I know better for you, and I don't know if that's necessarily true. So yeah.
One of the hardest parts of being in a position of advising and supporting founders is this, which is, I think it's sort of at the base level, if you are not doing something that is authentic to you, you're probably not going to be successful at it over the long run.
Dude, I'm here for the long run.
It doesn't matter. Like I find myself giving advice all the time that I have to add that context to, which is like, but this is from my point of view. And, I guarantee you one way that you're not going to be successful is if you try to go live your life and do the things that are best for me, because we're very different people, So you're on your bullshit, your bullshit, rock and roll.
Yeah.
Like we, in the founders that we back, like we look for these like cult like behaviors, right? Like you have to have people that really fucking love the thing you're building. You have to have a bunch of people that really fucking hate it. So I think the way you're building, I think, is in line with the way that we think you need to go build. Obviously,
I gotta enjoy what I'm doing. The second I start feeling like I can't be my true self, either through my product or through my tweets, I'm gonna quit and I'm out of here. So I gotta I'm here for the long run. I've been here for 2 years. Like it's it's a grind, and so and the fact that I 2 years in, I'm still this excited about it. It's only because I have completely and authentically lived my truth through every single thing that I do with regards to Twitter and more product. So
they talk about you're basically Gwyneth Paltrow here, living your truth, building the next. I love that for you. I love that for you. All right, man. Well, appreciate you hopping on. I mean, I think you've always been direct and I think yourself with me, et cetera. And that's always going to be I have appreciation for that deeply. And I think, what I love the most about what we're trying to build here at C Club is, I really hate the idea that we try to think that we have answers, right? What I love the most is being a part of so many journeys, being able to see what you're doing, you're learning, you're sort of pushing at an edge over here. And then we have, 10 other amazing teams that are pushing on other edges. And somewhere in the triangulation of that, good insight comes out that allows us hopefully to be successful in building these things. So appreciate you engaging, man. Wish you well. Looking forward to whatever horror shows are going to come out around.
Let's go. Yo, appreciate my haters. Appreciate my doubters. I want more. I feel turn it up. It's not enough. I need more.
All right, I got an anon count that can start coming at you. We'll load it up.
Let's reply guy. Let's fucking go.
All right, Brian. Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Nice. I mean, it felt very much not strategic, but I think it ultimately will look very strategic because of the core point that you made, which is, there was sort of some chat in our test flight club.
You don't get this outpouring of Solana support without. Whether it was strategic or not, I think the outcome was strategic.
Yeah,
I think it's,
I mean, you
the reality. I would love to move past this world of kind of endless maxi behavior and infighting. But the reality is, it's very real, and I think the way that you align with a community and get the attention of a community is kind of portraying those values. So.
I think that the challenge is, I think, not like if we agree with the description that EVM chains care more about impact and Solana cares more about price, I think that's just like such a false dichotomy, and also one that ultimately doesn't get you very far. You kind of need to be able to play with both. And so when we talk to, the most successful companies, consumer companies in our portfolio are ones that are very aware of those dynamics and are playing them. And I think this is maybe the issue to me. I think the incentives drive everything here, right? The L1 founder, the foundation, the VCs with the bags, they want you to believe in being a maxi. Their entire existence is built on being that. I love these founders, but they are there to brainwash you into thinking that this matters and the others don't. And all the games that are being played, even the Solana guys, if Raj, et cetera, up in the chat, like this is part of that game, and it's a game that's extremely lucrative, and it's a game that we get to benefit from playing if we're building on these sort of things. But let's not get lost in the fact that it's a game and we're being manipulated for their benefit. And that's not saying that there's sort of like any intense bad will or intention behind that, but it's just where the incentives lie. And so I just think that we need to, the right way to approach this is like, these are games. I'm going to go play these games. But if you lose sight of the big picture, I'm just so convinced the bigger picture is I mean, it's just going to take one breakout consumer app to be able to do what Brian's doing, saying, listen, you know what? It's not just base anymore. I'm going to go build on these 2 or 3 other places to really start to shift that dynamic. But I think at the same time, this tribalism and these cultures are very real. These are, I think, looking at L1s or these ecosystems as countries with their own politics and their own cultures and their own and infighting and sort of enemies out there, and their sort of shift is, the reality today, and will probably be the reality for a lot longer than we think. But I just don't, this idea of being lost in that and being captured by that and being a tool in that just feels like such a lame fucking way to be.
For sure.
And I mean, we'll start talking about Singapore a little bit, but I know if you could have zoomed out of the crypto conference scene in Singapore, just get like a SimCity high level view, and you looked at that, you're like, if this is the epitome of this industry, we're all fucked. Like this is a circle jerk of which we are just all sitting here saying that we're great. And Solana is the main culprit right now, folks. Like they are in. This is what ETH maxis were 2 years ago. Solana maxis are today. And I think if we just zoom out another couple of years, it's going to look ridiculous, quite frankly. And then just look who's talking about this stuff. Look who is pushing this stuff. Look who's talking about the flippening. Like this is people who have deep bags and are incentivized to go do it. So don't get played. Play the game. Let's go play them rather than getting played by these folks. Is my take.
Yeah, I mean, I think those qualities exist in all cultures and communities. Like if you when you go to you zoom out on like sports fandom, and it looks like ridiculous from the outside, like the shit, like these tailgates, the shit people are doing, the how hardcore they support their teams. Like this is just
why does it feel so different?
Piece of finding. I mean, it's like financialized to a larger degree, and there's real like economic interest behind. I mean, not that there isn't in sports. So I don't know. I largely just see it. Yeah. I see it pretty similarly, honestly.
As sports, yeah, interesting. Maybe my core issue is just seeing people if we're honestly engaging with this, it feels very different than not. Like my feeling is that so many folks are just wrapped up in the political or the drama landscape that is happening without sort of zooming out. And so to me, like the idea of a founder that we work with is kind of being, pulled in and shifted into this in a full way without being able to see. I mean, maybe at the very least, there's just so clearly within these countries a lack, or at least ecosystem, a lack of exploration outside of it. And
for sure,
at the very least, that's going to be pretty harmful. So,
I mean, do you think I think it varies a lot depending on who you are, right? Like if you're a founder deeply embedded in an ecosystem, like you need to take the blinders off and see what's happening. There's like so much to learn. If you're in Solana, there's so much to learn from ETH. If you're in ETH, there's so much to learn from Solana. There's so much to learn from like the way br1an's building community. If you're a founder, it's like critical that you just learn from what's happening across the space. If you're someone looking to have fun on the internet and you're finding community in Solana and Memecoins, and fucking go have fun, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, core to our thesis is that this cultural dynamic exists. In fact, it's I think the reason why these ecosystems are valuable is this sort of social cultural side of things, and far less the economic value that is, or the fundamental value of these things. So I guess I just see it highly likely that there is an equal, if not stronger, type of cultural and social connection that will happen at the app layer versus the infrastructure layer, and that opportunity might be bigger. And that's the reason that opportunity is bigger would be your ability to play the game across all these chains rather than just in one, because there's some meta utility.
I 100% agree with that.
So that's what I mean. Being a founder in crypto is fucking impossible, because it's like you have to be expert at navigating middle school. Okay, were you good at navigating middle school? Maybe you got your ass kicked in middle school and you figured out how to go do it. Okay, so politics, I got the politics down, and now the tech, I got to get the tech, and then the cultural relevance and the big vision and such. So I got to channel Steve Jobs in some sort of way here, right? And then it changes because we got 14 new L1s and L2s coming out, and have you heard about the bears? They're coming over. You see 10,000 people lined up. It's just complicated.
Yeah, you can't just go launch a website and run some performance marketing like you used to. You gotta
the good old days.
Good old days. Yeah.
Maybe that's why we don't see any crypto projects in any of the YC batches these days. It's just we don't know how to go build there. It's too fucking weird.
I mean, truly though, right? Like how could these successful Web 2 SaaS founders advise on building consumer crypto products? Like it's a new world.
Like we got a good comment in the chat here. People whose entire brand is "come at me, bro" edgelordism are so tiresome. Shut up and build. Nothing wrong with having fun. We could all use more fun in our lives, but drama for the sake of it is so middle school. Well said. Well said. All right, let's move on to some other stuff, because God, this is something I wish hopefully we don't chat about too much in the future. But Brian responded in the chat, "I will not shut up and build." He's committed. I love it. All right. What else we got?
I mean, any other takes from or reflections from Singapore? Like, we had a great week there. I think largely, we went to Breakpoint, spent some time at Network State. We never made it to token, but largely kind of avoided the mass gatherings. So did poke our head in, but had a lot of very valuable conversations, smaller gathering with more kind of intimate focused teams. So curious. We've had a week. Hopefully jet lag is kind of behind us. So
dude, I'm still looking for my good night's sleep, man. I'm still looking for it. Hasn't come yet, but I'm not going to complain because Singapore is wonderful. I mean, what a phenomenal city. Like my city's a little bit more edge than that, but for what it was, blew me away. It clearly was the center of crypto in Asia for the week. And I think so. High level takeaways, wild to see these, I think, community specific or culturally focused L1s emerge and kind of dominate. I think the distance between what br1an did and what Moonthat did and what MKBHD did is sort of examples of these sort of ecosystems that are really, I think, about to launch and have generated a ton of community interest compared to things like Ton and Blast and some of these other places was really notable to me. Like there was just a ton of interest there. Interesting to see how.
Also interesting how all the the weird, novel, kind of uncomfortable things that are getting built today that ultimately are the things that break out and introduce radically new consumer behaviors. Like they're getting built on these culture first chains, not the kind of mass market.
The strategy seems to be from these folks, we need to go find apps that are uniquely taking advantage of our culture and of our tech. And I think they're seeing a value in them being very different than what exists elsewhere. And I think that is a go-to-market strategy up against, let's say, the Blast-based Optimism Arbitrum, general L2 angle is interesting, and I think might work, frankly, because I think ultimately giving people unique things to do that sort of continues to build this identity within these new ecosystems is huge and very valuable. And I think it's maybe the challenge of my life is both holding this belief that we go break beyond this, and also that this is the game to play today and probably for a lot longer than we think or maybe hope. And so really new novel things are emerging from it. I think any roundup about Singapore that isn't talking about Barachain and just the insanity of attention and events they did there is captured somehow. I think I've seen a few of those. Like
in Moonthat, Solana, obviously, we're standing.
Solana, I think Moonthat team did a great job in bringing folks together. Really had some great dinners there. There's some weird shit being built on MKBHD. There's, I think, but the general meta, after we talked to a lot of funds and investors and stuff over there, and I think there's actually just this general right now around there's this a hope for more. And I think there was actually, let's see if I can bring up a good what am I doing here, screenshot. I said what he said. I think this was from Jason Choi's piece here. It says the general consensus is there's a dearth of applications that weren't funding, and the growing awareness of the infrastructure game is pushing its asymptotic limits. God, I can read asymptotic limits in terms of the improvements that can be made. So it's sort of like a funding perspective. And my big takeaway there is that these guys have no fucking clue what's cool and interesting and coming up next. The likelihood that these large funds or institutional capital are going to be backers of this next wave of consumer crypto is incredibly low, and yet they also feel like this infrastructure game is no longer EV plus for them, but that's the game they're still playing. And so there's this huge cognitive dissonance out there in the investor land around what is interesting. They're like, oh, there's no way that this, this sort of infrastructure focused L1 stuff is going to work forever. But we're like, wow, but we don't see anything.
We're also still going to continue investing in it. Yeah.
So we're going to continue investing in it. It's like, okay, well, so they're not going to be a part of this shift, right? Which I think it got us excited because we're like, oh, great. Well, we're great at finding the pockets of interest and money and opportunity. And really that's the, bringing folks together around a mission is the opportunity. So yeah, I think that's interesting. I think the other thing that we sort of learned was that just where we are in the sort of capital cycle is actually going to put a pretty big limitation on early stage funding or VC funding generally. I think the last 2 years have been challenging from a venture capital industry perspective, very low amounts of money returned to LPs and these fund of funds. And a lot of funds are sort of towards the end of their deployment cycle and are all coming back at the same time. And so there's a lot of people fundraising, including the institutional, and there's not a whole lot of interest out there. And so I think all this changes so fast though, and it probably might have changed in the last week. BTC going up changes that often. But I think for me, it was sort of this like continuing to see how far away we are in both our beliefs in what we're seeing built in like, what's happening on the ground. And we're not even like big institutional capital. These are folks that are still doing some, more out there crypto things, but having a hard time kind of wrapping their heads around what to make it. So, I think my consistent advice to anybody who's building consumer crypto is the traction. Mm-hmm. We have to unlock funding in this sort of era. We have to de-risk it for an investment perspective. And I think within a consumer app space, I think the bar is a little bit higher in that you need to have traction, whereas you can be pre-product with a lot of this infrastructure. But I don't think the bar for traction is that high, right? People are just wanting to see that there's something they can take to their IC and say, look, month over month, this is growing. We think this can be a winner. And
we've talked about that with so many of our teams, right? It's like they want to have conviction in general. Like the average person in IC does not have conviction. Maybe there's one consumer investor at a firm that does, and they just need to be armed with traction numbers because they can't talk their way, vision their way into getting it across IC. So
yeah, interesting. What else came
I think for me, it's always funny being at these conferences and then seeing the like public discourse from people who aren't there and just everyone just mid-curving it. I think my general take is like, it's just so sick being in a place with all these people who are like passionate about the same things as you are. And you just can't trade off having dinner with someone that, you've hung out on the internet with, or suddenly like being in like a real social context with all these people that like, like the Asian community that like we largely just have not, talked to or interacted with or tapped into, and just being able to talk to them and, understand how different the crypto worldview is over there, what's working over there. I don't know, just came away just so excited by all the relationships we made and built there.
Yeah, I think it's both this feeling of when you get into the small conversations in the rooms, they're some of the most interesting conversations that you have. I think at the meta or the abstract level at marquee nightclub in downtown Singapore at 1 a.m., not so much the interesting thing. And we sort of that's the world that we live in, right? There's find your rooms, find your people. 100%. I didn't come out feeling that same way than you did. I came out leaving that being like God, I hope there's more, and I believe there's more, right? And it felt very hollow to me.
The reality is the space today is just like so big and like fractalized that you can't see all of it. So and I think everyone still thinks they are, and I think even us, right? It's like it's crazy just having these conversations and asking people what they're excited by and just like seeing the wildly different answers. Everyone has. Obviously there's overlap in kind of the big mainstream projects that everyone talks about, but each person that you're talking to that's kind of like embedded in a different circle than you are can like bring up, products or chains or whatever that you just haven't heard about or hasn't kind of come into your like awareness. So I think it's getting like increasingly important to just like find your lane and zero in on it, and also just like build a network of people who, have other lanes that you can kind of tap for insights.
I worry that while it might be fractured, that the one level up, there isn't a whole lot of difference there. And I think that as far as like, there's probably a few base reasons why people show up into these places. And I think that still the predominant reason is to show up to try to go make short-term money. It just kind of what most of these events screamed. I mean, so many of these, the amount, if you ran an event there, you think, imagine the amount of bloody money you put on to go and do a side event there. And I don't know, yeah. I both have zero desire to go back to a Token 2049 conference, even though we didn't go. And also think it'd probably be extremely valuable to go back for the reasons you're just talking about, right? Like the ability to be in a place. It's just the crypto conferences are lame, except for the fact that all the people you probably want to talk to are going to be there, and that makes it so easy. So this cultural dynamic where we're all remote or tied into whatever, and then we come together on. So I think any takes from people being like, "Oh, I'm really glad I didn't go to Token 2049." Like I get it, but Singapore was incredibly valuable. I mean, when you're sitting in a room with people and you start talking to them, and you're drinking coffee or you're having a beer, they start telling you all sorts of crazy shit that I'm pretty sure they're not supposed to be telling you. And so I think we walked away with a ton more insight on the behind the scenes dynamics, on the relationships, on what's happening in Funland, et cetera. And I don't think you get that on a Zoom call. So I agree. I think I love the idea of playing the game. I'm not the type of person who identifies with political parties or anything like that. I think it's all a game. And so our ability to step back from it and play that game as best we can, I think is my goal here generally.
I think the other big takeaway was the Network State conference for me. And I think just how quickly, I think like two things, just how quickly that's kind of transitioned from being this like weird fringe thing to actually a very real movement. Like we've had a front row seat at this with Cabin, right? And I remember talking to John, honestly, even a year ago, and he was like kind of positioned with this, like, you know, the network state meta kind of narrative. No one really cares. But then going to this conference, like there's a room full of fucking people from climate science and longevity research and obviously crypto, and just like, I think the intersection of people that were there that aren't necessarily interested in crypto, but are kind of pulled in by this idea of network states, and just how big it's getting, I think, and how much it's compounding was interesting.
I think the network state represents it's a good early representation of what crypto could go do, right? If we step away from the crypto part and talk about the impact or like the higher order desire that comes out of this. And so, yeah, my takeaway Breakpoint, phenomenal conference. The guys do an incredible job there. It's phenomenal. And then network state, same space, also phenomenal, did a great job. What was really notable there was just the diversity of backgrounds, of careers, of locations, et cetera. That was very noticeable compared to the crypto only events. And so to me, it's like whoever can, that is going to be incredibly valuable because he's able to both bring crypto interest and multiple other interests together to go after a bigger dream. And I think that ultimately is what we have an opportunity to do. I mean, it made me think for C Club again, like, okay, consumer crypto, that is a category that is very much on the inside of crypto, right? We're focusing on trying to serve the core here. But what is there a meta layer that we can go play in that actually expands the service area? Because I am convinced that there are more and more people out there who care about a more interesting internet, better incentives, new business models, all these things. This is the reason why we're building in crypto. And if we're able to kind of create that new layer, then I think that there's, new markets is how we go make bigger, valuable things here. And Balaji and the network state is defining new markets. And I think that is the opportunity for us as well.
Nice. I mean, good transition to the Z Pride post. So let's jump into that. So yeah, Long Solitude shared a great post. I think you shared it yesterday. Kind of talked about the unique properties of crypto and how they've unlocked the properties for the breakout products we've seen to date. And ultimately, they kind of talked about how to find good startup ideas that leverage them. And really, their TLDR in the post is that obviously crypto isn't a panacea to every world problem, and all the sustainable use case that have kind of survived cycles have ultimately had financial properties have leveraged the financial properties of blockchain. So the two core properties that they outline that are kind of the things or the like inflections potentially that you need to be building on top of are permissionless capital formation and ultimately by extension token distribution, of course, and then global consensus over a distributed ledger of financial assets. So I think those two kind of unique properties of crypto really like created the foundation and opportunities for like DeFi and Memecoins, prediction markets, and DePIN. And they really talk about, I think, leave it by saying that like really like the way to look for new startup ideas or like the opportunity looking forward in crypto is like find things that people want to trade before they understand that they want to trade them. Using crypto assets to kind of add legibility and create new markets. So I think bang on. I think I've talked about this many times, is like the kind of like first round of I think killer consumer products are going to be financial and speculative at their core. I think the risk with all of this stuff is, I think when, even when we talk about consumer crypto, or when I say like financialization and speculation at their core, I think people have a much more like reductive view of what that means than I think what we actually hold true in our brains. And I think you would see that if you look at the projects that have come through our accelerator. Like it's not just Memecoin launchpads. There's kind of this like broad range of things you can go build on these foundations. But I think it's very true that you need to just have these kind of core insights into how these financial properties are unlocking new opportunities.
I still struggle with the whole narrative, like that crypto is more than just financialization. I'm like, is it? And also, is that I understand the arguments for it. Like, there's a ton of interesting things you can do with attributions and, unique data on chain, etc. But I mean, the opportunity is, I think, finding new markets, bringing new inventory into these marketplaces. I mean, that's kind of the history of marketplaces generally. The last 20 years of how you made a ton of money on the internet was, can you go find new inventory that doesn't exist and bring it online? And looking at that in the on-chain world makes a ton of sense. And so I'm not sure you can pull this financial piece out from it. And I think, all of this is built on, I think, that inherent understanding of better capital formation. And importantly, I think this is maybe the other thing that came out of Singapore. If we're building crypto networks, these things want to be global. And I guarantee you're not spending enough time in other markets. We are not spending enough time in other markets. The desire is out there. That we have fans in all these other places, and we're not remotely serving them right now. And so I think that sort of global consensus piece is huge. And I mean, it's really got me rethinking about how do we have to reshape our organization and how we show up so that we can actually be, I guess, what do we have? We have two major challenges, right? We got to figure out crypto. We got to figure out the global nature of crypto. And then let's just, sprinkle a little bit of AI on top of that. Three shifts that to really capitalize on, you probably have to make fundamental cultural and organizational changes to do so. I think it's an interesting challenge.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, let's jump to, speaking of AI, Agentic Protocols. I think this is came out earlier this year. I don't know why, but it was making its rounds again this week.
I know why.
Do you? Why?
Because I think there's this like narrative bubbling up that protocols that make money are actually going to be more valuable than the ones that don't. Shocking idea. So, I mean, that's why I shared it. Not because, this is a long post. It's the TLDR is basically suggesting that the crypto opportunity really is going to be agents playing with agents, making a ton of money. And they're making the argument that AI and sort of this sort of open, crypto AI ecosystem is going to be the breeding ground for these types of things. I see that feature. How fast that comes, I think, is a big open question. Actually, I just don't think it comes as fast as the author here thinks it will. But I think it reminds me of, I think, like the purest version of what crypto can be, which is just like a vending machine on the internet that, prints money. So I loved, oh my God, the name of that NFT project that Simon de la Riviere did, Neelastics, right? It's just the dumbest thing, but it's just this bonding curve that is going to exist forever that people can buy and sell from, and it prints money. And maybe it's a lot, I don't know. To me, that is like probably the biggest opportunity out here in crypto, right? You don't need people, you make the thing, it creates value, go. And so, and I think that, that is put up against L1's, L2's infrastructure, apps that are just launching tokens that maybe don't have any utility to them or have utility to them, but don't actually have any revenues from them. So I think there's sort of this recognition that long-term sustainable value is going to come from being able to generate revenue, and that maybe the purest form of that will be these agents that are out there playing around. Sam's cooking again.
I mean, I think it just feeds into this idea too, right? And I think when, anytime I read about AI crypto, what's coming, obviously timelines are blurry, but I think if you have a long-term view today, like you obviously just don't want to be building like commoditized software. You don't want to be building a SaaS company. You don't want to be building anything that isn't like, you want to be getting as close to like real human connection and emotion, I think, as possible, because like in this world that we all know is coming, it's accelerating. Who knows how quickly it's coming, but it's coming quickly. All value is going to flow to community and brand. And I think the earlier you start trying to make sense of what that means and what this, new world of building worlds people want to be a part of on the internet actually means, how you do that, I think you're just going to be going to be better suited for when it inevitably
Yeah, I think
arrives.
your tweet the other day is like, it's wild how much a token can make people care about infrastructure. I think is actually a really important core insight here, and maybe a bull case for crypto generally, right? That maybe that like actually it is personality, brand, meaning, adventures that are the differentiator here in a big way, and giving people a way to have ownership or earn ownership in that is going to be very compelling, and it's going to create this deep, sticky tribalism that's going to allow you to be successful over the long run. I think this one quote here, which is, so the post that's on the screen for those that are listening, is that the SaaS era is over. Software is a business tool, not a business model, from Sam Lesson on Twitter. And he's got one point here. He's like, how you should actually be using software is to make certain businesses way, way, way more valuable, and then buy those businesses / the real asset. And so I think that is the interesting thing. And maybe we say that about it's sort of in the way that brands are the most valuable, but I think there's a level below that, which is like the mechanism or the engine that drives value is the truly valuable thing here. And I mean, it just feels so aligned with crypto.
Exactly. I think that reading this and reading the Agentic Protocols post, they go hand in hand.
I think, a question I have, I don't know if Jacob's listening to us today, but I look at Zora and I say, what is the thing that drives the most value to Zora and eventual Zora token? Is it the L2, or is it the mechanism or the smart contracts, the protocol that are capturing fees and distributing fees, et cetera? And to me, it's obvious that it's the transaction fees that are, or like the fees that one's able to earn as this thing gets distributed wider over the market. But the counterpoint to that is, like, if you go raise off an LT, you can go put a couple $100 million into your treasury, and then all of a sudden your business becomes treasury management rather than your L2. And my first take from that was like, oh, that's kind of fucking stupid. And then the other take is like, well, that's actually kind of smart. And maybe that is actually the business model of most of these L1s and L2s, that just go build a big treasury and then manage those assets super well. And if you look at a Near and maybe a Solana, et cetera, obviously they're doing a lot more than that. But is that the take? I think it is. So, but what is the thing, the version? So maybe like the EV plus opportunity right now is to go build that treasury because the opportunity lives. Maybe that's not going to exist in the future, and you can build something else in the future. So I think that's what's driving a lot of decisions people are making.
Yeah, interesting. Cool. Let's jump to Moon. So ultimately, I added earlier this week. Ended up being not as interesting as I was hoping it was going to be. But so when I first stumbled on this, basically like the it's a new Memecoin launchpad, and the core mechanism was that, instead of anyone being able to go and just create tokens, like you have to propose a Memecoin basically, and then there would be one that was live at any given time. I think the team behind it would curate tokens, and it just consolidated attention onto a single token. And for the first few launches, that worked super well. It was interesting. They also, some other mechanics, I think it's timed instead of being, or it's both timed and has an ETH cap. Every address can only contribute 0.1 ETH. So a bunch of stuff to just kind of play with the mechanics. But then I noticed after a couple of days, they stopped curating and opened it up, and now it kind of just looks like every Memecoin launchpad. But it kind of reminds me of, I think it was like late last year, I was kind of teasing this idea around of like a Memecoin studio DAO that this reminded me of. I just became excited by. So I was thinking about some kind of a nouns DAO mechanism almost, where every day there's a new meme coin that gets launched from this DAO and people can contribute to the pre-sale. And at the end of the day, it gets launched, tokens get distributed, some percentage of it goes to the core DAO, and then maybe all contributors also earn like DAO tokens or something. So I don't know. I think when I first saw this, I thought this was maybe going in that direction, and ultimately it wasn't, but it just kind of reminded me of that. I got recapped by the idea.
How do you square that with, I think, the other position you hold, which is the value of something like Pumped Up Fund is the chaos network effects that anybody can come in and do things. And I think somebody, I can't remember who said it, kind of just talking about meme coins as like, a fun game a Gen Zer can do with their friends. You can go and just meme shit on the internet and then maybe make millions of dollars.
Yeah, I think Ansem, I have it up here.
Yeah, Ansem had a good tweet about it, right?
Yeah, it was a great tweet.
Which is like, I
think both are, I think the big platform opportunity is something like Pump.Fun, but I also think there could be a pretty fun, community-based thing where you're like collectively, I don't know, you're scouring the news, you're going to the fucking zoos to try to find the new animal and its name, and just like kind of collectively, you're probably like this DAO or studio is probably a user of Pump.Fun maybe to get distribution and attention, maybe a bunch of other platforms. But I think you just turn the like creation and discovery of memes and potentially the like early kind of cult building over to like a DAO or a community of people, and maybe there's some fun games to play there.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely an interesting angle. I mean, look, I feel like that probably is happening right now in these sort of informal spaces.
It probably
right
is.
Right?
Yeah, it probably is.
Also, yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, shout out Moodang, I guess, right? Rock and roll.
What a run.
I don't have any bags. Goddamn. Oh, well.
It had to come out during Singapore, didn't it?
Let's hit where are the fucking apps here, and then lightning round. We're at 11.
Yeah. So kind of put this one at the bottom in case we had time and could just kind of run through and look at some of the things that have been submitted. But so David Phelps from Joke Rates basically submitted a contest on his platform, just encouraging people to submit the apps that they find interesting, their own app, to really just kind of have this consolidated place where people can go and discover all the interesting things that are getting built. And it's actually a pretty cool list. I think, obviously a lot of the usual suspects, a lot of, things that maybe I wouldn't classify as being too interesting, but there's some hidden gems in here of things I hadn't yet seen, but are kind of cool. So I encourage people to go look at it and vote.
And I think there's something really interesting about the joke mechanism here, right? Where this is very, you can see this is kind of like a product hunt, but importantly, there's actually you got to pay, right? Like there's a transaction fee here, so you have to have higher conviction, and it's, ideally lead to less spam. And then there's rewards for those that kind of win, right? So there's sort of like a little business model here that drives hopefully to better curated content. So a good example of joke, and you get to go click around a bunch of new interesting apps. So shout out to them. But why do we put expensive wallpapers? I think I'm kind of fascinated about.
It was so So Marquise Brownlee, the big tech reviewer YouTube guy, basically launched. I think he'd been telling people he was going to launch a product for a while. People were excited by it, and he finally released it. And it was like subscription wallpaper app or something. So
he got raked, didn't he? He got raked over the coals for it.
He got raked. So I think a funny story, but B, also interesting just seeing these sources of attention and influencers starting to kind of step into building their own products and software as kind of an extension of their community.
Yeah, I think that the true evidence of success or failure is how much bloody money he makes off of it. My guess is it's going to be a ton. Same with like the Lunchable things that Mr. Beast and those guys did. It's like a lot of hate for it on the internet, because is that really what we want to be feeding our kids? And they're going to make a ton of bloody money off.
Yeah, I think Nikita was guessing based on its App Store ranking that it would probably make a couple mil. Yeah, right here. I'm guessing the Wallpaper app will make 2 to 3 mil in the first year, given its chart position. But I don't think I've ever seen someone's reputation get vaporized like that in a single day. So he nets out negative in the medium term.
And I'm not sure about that. I think people will forget about this really quickly. It's interesting because the other news that I'm trying to wrap my head around is the WordPress.org versus WP Engine stuff, like Matt Mullenweg from They basically are saying WordPress Engine is a cancer because they're trying to do XYZ and aren't giving back to the WordPress ecosystem, and therefore they should pay licensing fees, which felt like a very bold founder bet and move. But the community has pushed back so hard. Maybe how he did it, the community's pushed back so hard in a way that I was kind of shocked by, even though he framed it up as like us as the open source community against Silver Lake, this big private equity firm is just trying to siphon value out of us here. And so I don't know, man. I don't think people know what they want. I think actually, I just have a deep respect for any founder that's able to step up in the face of a whole lot of shit like that and actually try to make a big, ideologically driven move that is in line ultimately with, I think, the bigger vision of the product, even though folks in the short term maybe don't quite see it. And I'd say that's the same with a silly app from Marquise or a bigger platform from WordPress. So, all right, we're way over time. It's 11:04. Hit me with the lightning round, Josh.
Okay, what do we got here? I thought this was cool from, I don't know if Polymarket launched it, but it's built on top of Polymarket.
It's from Pleaser.
Oh, it's Pleaser that did it. Oh, sick, even better. Yeah, so they launched this thing called the Crypto National Convention, and basically what you can do is it's like this collective crypto vote on who they want to be president. So basically you can deposit money, you get this America token, which ultimately ends up as a claim on so you get you deposit money, then you vote on whether you individually want Kamala Harris or Trump, and then whoever ends up the crypto winner, you get America tokens. So that gets placed on Polymarket, and then the America tokens that you get are ultimately a claim on the winnings of of that prediction market.
Yeah, multi-layer
Kind of stumbled
betting
through the
games
explanation
here.
of that, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's super clear, Josh. That's a very clear.
I nailed that,
product,
didn't I? Yeah.
Yeah, you did a great job. I mean, as long as you keep talking, you haven't lost. It's my feeling. You'll find a point eventually.
Monologue detected.
We started we're playing around with a bunch of these AI note takers, trying to be an AI first organization, and Fathom pops up a little warning thing saying monologue detected, and it starts giving you a count along and how you're talking. It was very distracting for me, but now I have it as sort of like a target to see how high I can get in our team meetings. Yeah. I think it only got to 2 minutes before it shut off, so I think that's my high watermark. All right, folks. Internet Explorers, episode 48. We're here every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. You can hang out with us at live.ccloud.xyz. We're seeing just an absurd love for the C Club newsletter. Cheryl is doing a killer job over there. We always get a ton of things. So if you're not subscribed to that, you got to join the almost 10,000 people that are on that list. You can do that at live.cclub.xyz or anywhere else we exist on the internet. We also have a Telegram chat. This has actually been sneaky valuable, Josh. We've heard almost to a T everybody that we've talked to over when we were in Singapore was in or had heard or had good things to say about the C Club curated Telegram chat. So we keep opening up every once in a while. People are interested in joining. Shoot us a DM. We'll get you into that as well. Just the right amount of consumer crypto news every single day coming to you through the Telegram. And I think actually that is probably the most valuable property for us moving forward, and one that we probably need to invest the most in, because I just see Twitter's becoming TikTok. Everything's becoming TikTok. It's going to be good for the extreme stuff. But if you want to get the niche, most interesting things, it's probably about choosing somebody or somebody's that are doing a great job curating and showing up in Telegram or in WhatsApp or in Discord more than it's showing up on these broader apps. So if you're building a product out there, get your community started on Telegram or Discord, somewhere that's not reliant on the algorithm to get you discovered. And so come hang out with us there. It's good.
It's interesting. I just noticed that Kamala actually won the Crypto National Convention vote.
Oh, it's ended, yeah.
Which is pretty against, I think, what you would the general sentiment on crypto Twitter. So
but I think this maybe makes it's just making the point Brian's making, right? That actually there are very different. Like I bet you if you did this on Solana, you might have had a very different outcome, And there's multi-layers to this politics thing. But hey, Kamala she said crypto. She said crypto, so we're good.
Say crypto.
I mean, I think this whole thing. You think either of these guys are going to really truly give a shit about us in any meaningful way when it comes down to it? I think I got a bridge for you that is on discount. Thank you all for hanging out with us today. We'll be back here next Friday, and until then, we'll see you on chain.